So let me give you the big picture. Mankind is totally lost. He's cast out of the garden. This is not and things are getting so nasty that God kills everybody except for 8 people. That's how bad it got. And then right after that, it starts getting bad again. And so God makes a plan to select one man, and from that one man build a whole nation, and through that nation reach the rest of the world. So God's going to build a nation of missionaries to reach the world. So this is called the Abrahamic covenant. It's in Genesis chapter 12, 1 through 3. And that covenant ends with the purpose clause, so that in you all nations, that would be Goyim, the Gentiles of the earth, may be blessed. That is the plan for the rest of the story, okay? Now, how do you do that? How do you raise up a group of missionaries? Let's just say we had a cure for cancer, and very few people knew about it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get some very dedicated people, because this cure is not very popular. And they're going to commit their lives to do it. We're going to train them to go out and communicate that. Now, here's the rules of the training. They're rigid because so much is at stake. You break one rule, you're out. Because we can't have rule breakers on our team because so much is at stake. You break the rule, you undermine the enterprise. So I want people to get that picture in their mind. Now, we're not talking about curing cancer now. We're talking about rescuing the world for eternity. God's rescue plan for defeating evil. And it's to take this nation. So what does he do? He's got to keep the nation spiritually pure, because there's a lot of nasty stuff going on around them, and he doesn't want anybody mixing it up with the others. That's why they got circumcised. So even when they tried to have sex with somebody, it was obvious that they were different. They are of a different tribe with a different purpose. And all kinds of details of the law that look picky, persnickety, had to do with keeping Israel spiritually separated from the rest of the world so that they did not adopt the theology of the world. Come out from them and be separate, which, by the way, is an Old Testament verse repeated in 2 Corinthians. Of the people of God not to be unequally yoked. Do not be connected with that, because you will be compromised by that. And in order to encourage, shall we say, compliance with the details of God's plan, there were harsh punishments put in place for it. Now, if you go to Ephesians chapter 2, and there Paul is talking to Ephesians who are Gentiles, and he says, you are outside of the commonwealth of Israel, all right, outside of the plan of God. That is the formal thing God was doing with the missionary nation he was raising up. And then he describes the fact that now in this era, in this period of time, that though they were separate, now I'm reading from chapter 2, verse 12, though you were at one time separate from Christ, excluded from the commonwealth of Israel, and strangers to the covenants of promise, having no hope and without God in the world. Okay, that's the world God's reaching with his plan. Then he says this, Christ, who is formerly far off, has been brought near to you, and he himself, Jesus, is our peace, who made both groups, that would be Jews and Gentiles, into one and broke down the barrier of the dividing wall by abolishing in his flesh the enmity, which is the law of commandments contained in ordinances. Notice how he says it's a dividing wall. It was put up there to keep the Jews separate from the Gentiles in a cultural sense so they didn't destroy their religion. And now in the new covenant, that wall has been removed, and the new covenant provisions are now advanced to the Gentiles exactly as God promised in Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 3. It all fits together. But if you don't understand it, it doesn't make sense. This is why Christians have got to understand the foundational theology of Scripture.